this mess.
Oh, that's
All right. I'd like to call to order the Village of Middleville Village Council meeting. Rhonda, could I please have roll call?
Kevin Smith,
Here.
Robert Bishop,
Here.
Tracy Gillespie,
Here.
Richard Hamilton,
Here.
John Osterban,
Here.
Mackenzie Peters, Ann Williams.
Here. I will make a motion to excuse Ms. Peters.
Support.
We have a motion with support. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. She is duly excused. Stand for the pledge. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
make a motion to approve the consent agenda as
We-
printed.
We still have to approve the agenda.
A regular
Approval of
agenda.
agenda.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Support. We have a motion with support. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Hamilton.
Yes. Make a motion to approve the consent agenda, item 5, as printed.
Support.
We have a motion with support for the approval of minutes of the regular meeting of June 10th, 2025, and approval of bills as of June 18th, 2025 for $94,059.86. Rhonda, could I please have a roll call?
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Tracy Gillespie,
Aye.
Richard Hamilton,
Aye.
John Osterban,
Aye.
Ann Williams,
Aye.
Kevin Smith.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, we have reserve time or public comment, limit of 3 minutes per speaker. If you could come up to the mic, introduce yourself, your address. Anyone? Anyone? Okay. Moving on to reserve time. First thing, we would like to recognize Mr. Baldry for completion of the Citizen Planner Certificate Award. I would like to have a photo op if you don't
Yeah,
mind, Craig.
absolutely.
Well, first of all, it's good to see you. You too. There you go. All right. Thank you. And I just have to say, you are remarkable. You spent so much time learning and understanding the system, and you have always been so involved in making yourself better through education. It's truly appreciated in everything that you do. So, thank you. Hopefully that's okay. Moving on to Williams and Works, please.
So I'm Brandon tonight. So I'm going to go over our projects with Middleville.
Why don't you tell them your real name, Katie?
Oh, sorry. I guess that'd be a good start. I'm Katie Mendez. I'm with Williams and Works. All right. So the first project we have going is the Paul Henry Trail Bridges. That one we went with the TAP grant and the DNR grant. The TAP grant is still out. The DNR grant was met with last week, and it seems like a positive, like it's going to be very highly in this application. So we're pretty sure we're going to get that one. The next one is High Street. There was just a small portion of sidewalk that had to be done, and that has been completed. So the final pay app will be completed and sent out, and then we should be done with that project. The retaining wall, we're still almost finished. We have a little bit of problem with consumers. It is a little section that needs to be paved after consumers comes and fix their remaining thing. Irving Road, as you can see all our signs, that is underway. Water is done. We are on to storm sewer, and then after that, curb and rebuild the road. But everything's going well. They're doing tests today, so hopefully everything's going well. I haven't heard anything bad yet. Let's see, Railroad Street, that one is still in design. That will be 2026 construction, so that one is still pretty new. Irving Road Phase 2, which includes that tank. The tank has been, we got the report back. Everything looks good. We're going to incorporate that into our plans, and then we should be almost good to go on that one. And then we can bid that one out. Mid Villa, water main has been pressure tested successfully, so that one is good to go. Looks like we're almost there with that. And then the last thing is the wastewater treatment plant. There has been a problem with the air diffusers. We found out that is a design flaw. The sludge is being entering through a space in the plastic diffuser. We are working with the manufacturer on that. We haven't had a resolution yet. So hopefully we'll get something on that and then we can get those fixed and get going with that. And then the last thing is the DDA support, and that's as requested. So yeah, that's it.
Perfect. Thanks, Katie. Any
Thanks.
questions or anything before she takes off? All right, good. Thanks. Ms. Getty.
Hello.
Hi.
All right.
Thanks for having me. Give a little county update. We had our household hazardous waste event. I can't remember if I reported on that yet. So did I?
Yeah.
We had over 500 cars. We had a lot of people, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
A lot of tires.
Yeah, lots of tires. Okay. Rock the Country event. I think there was some nervousness about how that event would go. I think everyone that I've talked to has been very happy with how the event was pulled off. Really, I think a great demonstration of how many entities were working together to make sure that that would happen. Lots of backup on Friday night on the roadways, but they had a powwow that night, and then were able to make some adjustments. Made a big difference for Saturday's traffic patterns. So that was really a great testament to the joint planning of dispatch and emergency preparedness and the sheriff's office and MDOT all working together. I will not take that phone call. Approval, we approved the PACE financing, some opioid settlement funds. A first round we did, we are republishing that. Hopefully we'll get some more applications. And then today we approved body cams and new radios for our sheriff's department. So that was just shy of $850,000. It was a unbudgeted expense, so there's considerable dialogue about that. But in the end, it's really important for our officers to have radios, to be able to be in touch and never lose contact, and then also be able to have the body cams. It's really, we're one of the only counties, agencies that don't have body cams. It protects everybody, the officer and the public, in instances where there's a discrepancy in stories. So we will be financing that over 3 years. We have a very good rate with High Point Bank. And so we'll do 3 installments of around $260,000, I believe. We are applying for some MMRA grants for that, up to $95,000 to help try to cover some of those expenses. And so we'll wait to see how those play out. Bring attention to the COA groundbreaking ceremony is tomorrow at 3:00 out at the Harvest Point, Thornapple Manor, new COA site. I have been promised that there will be refreshments there and maybe some in the indoors, so a nice cool spot. And then another groundbreaking celebration for the Riverwalk Apartments, and that's the Royal Coach Project that's across from Thornapple Plaza and Hastings Library. And that will be on July 1st at 11 o'clock, and that would be entering off Mill Street for that event. Any questions?
That includes the body cams and all the equipment that you'd purchased, radios and whatnot, is that just going to happen for the Middleville unit, or is that
Yes.
specific?
Yeah,
Okay.
because, yep.
Nice.
I don't know if there's any,
We're gonna have a portion of.
Right,
Yeah, we're gonna have to pay for a
sharing
portion
some of the
that,
expense,
yeah.
but-
Yes, yep. And we don't know what that number is gonna look like yet, so, but there will be a portion we'll have to support of that, so.
but all sheriff's deputies, employees will be assigned a body cam and radio.
Nice.
I just have a statement. The company that's doing the earth moving they are really good. It's so neat. I don't think I've seen dirt move that well.
Are you
Been a
talking
long
about
time.
COA?
Yes,
It's impressive, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, apparently it's providing quite the hours of entertainment too to Harvest Point and
bet
Thornapple
it
Manor
is.
residents, yeah.
They must be really, now you've
live
piqued
there.
my interest.
it's really nice.
Yeah, really nice. It's going to be a great project.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Right, no petitions or communications. Going on to ordinances and resolution. Mr. Powers.
Thank you, Council. So the subject tonight is the recommendation to adopt ordinance number 2143, which is an amendment to section 66-129 regarding no parking standards. So the staff recommends that the village council approve ordinance number 2143. Oops, that's actually
2142.
2142. My apologies. But what this pertains to is that, yep. So yeah, what this pertains to, as you can see in the ordinance found behind you, is that this is an update regarding the concerns and comments that we've had that were first brought up in November of last year related to EMS access. So the modifications within this ordinance, which you can find on page 2 of the ordinance, it stipulates in regards to who the primary officers are responsible for authorizing or allocating no parking signs, along with stipulating that parking of vehicles shall be prohibited in designated no parking areas as indicated or directed on official village no parking signs. So this would allow for the village to potentially, allocate those signs as needed. No suggestion to signage today. This is just the language that's been in the works and work through the attorney. If there's any questions specific to this, being that this is, this ordinance would not require a public hearing. This would just require the council to make a motion and approval.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2143 to amend section 66-129 of chapter 66 regarding signage for no parking.
Support.
All right. We have approval or a motion with support. Any further discussion regarding the ordinance itself or the language? All right. Let's do a roll call. Let's do it.
Okay. Tracy Gillespie,
Aye.
Richard Hamilton,
Aye.
John Osterbahn,
Aye.
Ann Williams,
Aye.
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Kevin Smith.
Aye. All right, motion passes.
Craig, why don't you just make your way up here?
Okay.
New business, right?
Staff report.
Staffs. We're on
Staff report. I
reports.
apologize. We moved them up. All right, very good. Craig,
Hi,
please, hi.
how are you? Everybody's got my report, hopefully had a chance to review that. One or a couple other notes, I sent everybody an email regarding the MML learning platform online. So really opens up the opportunities for folks to do that. If there's some classes you're interested in, let me know and we can get you registered. I think you should be able to register yourself, but if not, let me know and we can handle that for you too. And you can take them at your own pace. You can do, 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. You can do a whole hour, a couple hours, however, whatever you like at one time. So really, they, put that out there because, you all are very busy, just like every other council, in the state. So they really wanted the opportunity for people to learn what they could about governance. So. And then the only other item besides that, we need to schedule a joint meeting again. I know joint meeting to death probably in the summer, but with the planning commission and the council, preferably in July. If you have any openings in July that you can look at right now, I think we're probably maybe looking at the off Tuesday, or even if you wanted to, you have planning first Tuesday, don't you? Could even do it the first Tuesday if you guys are available.
That's next week, though.
Is that possible, Ms. Clark? We'd have to,
We've published the packet already for next week.
okay, so not next Tuesday. So it'd have to be either, sorry, I get,
And we have to,
yeah,
and we also have to post it,
yeah,
so.
my bad.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll, maybe, let me look here. Could potentially do the 15th,
That's fair week.
fair week, be bad, could potentially do,
You have 5 Tuesdays. Yeah, 29.
could do the 28th, or 29th,
29th.
excuse me, if we wanted to do that. Shoot for the 29th.
29th.
Sound good? Okay, all right, all right, plan on that.
7 o'clock
7,
or 6?
6.
6, we could do 6, if that works for you.
29th, July 29th,
Okay,
planning commission, council joint.
We talked about, at least I thought we had a consensus on having the liaison with each party, which Catherine Getty suggested.
okay. That's all I have for my report unless anybody has any questions. Oh, we had interviews last night. One of them went really well. I've got a second meeting with the person for the Public Works Director position on Thursday. So I will present something to that person. I'm trying to be as vague as possible because we don't have anything yet, but present something to that person Thursday morning. Somebody, very highly qualified, and if we're able to land a deal, we will be in really good shape. So
I appreciate the effort and just being expedient with it. I was super concerned.
as I was as well, yes.
I mean, that's a hard position to fill,
Yes,
and we
yep.
certainly,
Yep, and then the other position that you approved the last meeting, admin assistant and deputy clerk position, we've received like 25, 26 applicants in less than a week. So we'll, Rhonda and I will be digging through those and paring them down and scheduling some interviews with those hopefully next week. So,
that's fantastic.
all right, anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, welcome back.
Thank you. So we'll certainly work to see if we can make that joint meeting happen and send out a poll. and
Sure.
Try to figure that out with the current commission members, see how that works. Just before I go into this report, want to reiterate for anyone that doesn't realize, like the citizen planner certification that Steve Baldry earned took 6 weeks of going to Muskegon, continued engagement sessions. This is not like a 1 or 2 hour course. that you might catch on YouTube. There's a lot that goes into it. And he actually even has, one of the books with him. It's like this thick that you have to go through. But I digress. So for the director's report for June, we have had, there's been a handful of zoning permits, as well as, signs and right-of-ways that you see. Beyond those pertaining to zoning, there are a couple updates. So one, 36 State Street, we did receive a preliminary purchase agreement from Copper Rock. However, there are a handful of items that still need to be worked out, including, acquisition of escrow funds before we can engage the attorney services and then be able to bring something to the council for consideration. There's just, a handful of issues. But beyond that, the ordinance committee, has been working towards submitting language related to many of the ordinance updates that we've been talking about. Those are going to be going to the planning commission, or at least what's been done so far. We'll be going to the planning commission next week to get some feedback. So hopefully we can start agreeing on sections of the ordinance that may not need additional modifications, so we can work on other sections. Beyond this, also related to 115 High Street, I did get notice from the developer that he is not going to be able to continue to move forward with that site. And he was asking if the council would consider potentially allowing him to sell the property or something else. The only thing I can say as of right now is that there's currently a development agreement in place. And if there was interest in anything, any conversations, the attorney's been apprised, could work with him to draft appropriate language and provide a recommendation at a later date. But that's all I would have for you on that, at least as of right now. Beyond the zoning, there's been, a handful of different items going on related to the DDA, as you see before you in this. I don't know if there's any questions, anything you'd like me to go into greater detail about. There's a lot of stuff here. Sure.
I know we've all been concerned about the High Street property. And like we discussed at great length a few months ago about taking it back. And now what's happened is exactly what we predicted. And I guess I want to know, what latitude do we have as a council, as a village, to do what we wanted to do 3 months ago?
I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to go into.
The
great
attorney's
detail.
already
Yeah.
been apprised of
Yeah.
the situation. He was at the last meeting, can certainly ask if he can provide the council with a report regarding legislative options. That's something that we can try to work on getting for the July meeting. So hopefully then, when it's the August meeting, we're getting close to that time frame, you can be well informed about what your options are, and if there's something additional you need from staff or from legal counsel.
I think that
Very good.
the one discussion point I think we can just take away from this is we gave a lot of latitude and made a lot of exceptions to an agreement that we had in writing. I think we just, the lesson learned here is that we had an agreement, and I think we should have probably stuck to our guns with that initially, but obviously we're always excited when somebody wants to invest in the community, and we want to be friendly in that regard. So I think our appetite to have these properties, I mean, we have several locations where I think we should always consider the public welfare and the public good in general when it comes to aesthetics or whether it's safety. I mean, we have a few properties that we could be discussing on this conversation, but just as a takeaway for me anyway, it has always, I've always been a big question mark as to why we give so much, I mean, almost 2 years of latitude in this regard. And it was always a wait and see. So lessons learned, right? So.
Yep, yep.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Powers?
So would you like us to give the attorney and bring back some options
For
then?
sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
we'll do
I
that.
think it makes good sense to at least figure out some language and be reasonable
Yep.
in our approach. And
Or at least know what our legal options are.
yeah.
Yep,
yeah.
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, will do.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
My only concern with that, now, I'm not concerned with what we're gonna do, but we could sit a long time waiting for that to be sold.
Yeah, I think
So-
there's options. I think we just have to understand,
What they are.
step one is the exit strategy. And then I think from there, once we get some definition from Mr. Nettleton, I think we can probably, I think we'll come up with some expeditious solutions in that regard. So, well, hello,
Hello.
welcome.
Thank you. So it is that time of the month where I give my report. Not much has changed outside of we had the market launch on May 23rd, and additionally, the Riverbank Music Series started on June 6th. June 6th so far, compared to the Riverbanks, to the concert from last Friday, they seem to have like a way higher turnout than compared to this past Friday. And so, I had been wanting to implement the data system that I'd been kind of mentioning last Friday, but unfortunately our food truck canceled. So I am actually planning on implementing it this Friday, as I was kind of waiting for the food trucks to start so that there was, a significant change enough for me to begin to start kind of tracking that data. Some of the things that I've built is like surveys, and there will be QR codes posted. I'm going to be sending out surveys to our bands, to the food truck vendors that come. Additionally, too, I'm also going to be implementing these different surveys and things, for like the farmers market, and asking our vendors and even like the customers that come to like the market, like, what do you want to see? What would you like, for the Riverbank series? Like, what kind of genre would you like? Do you like the genre? Do you connect with the genre? Is there another genre or band that maybe you would recommend? And just kind of trying to gauge overall how the community is really feeling about the events and everything going on. And then being able to take that data and kind of take that and try to kind of turn these events into something that our community is actually looking for. And so that way our community continues to feel more encouraged to engage. As you can see, I have identified 4 different tracking areas that I'm trying to track with this system that I've created. The first one being attendance and engagement. How many people are attending? How are they engaging? Additionally, vendor experience, how our vendors are feeling, are they satisfied? Is there something that they feel that could be better? Because a lot of our vendors honestly go to many different, we have, farmers market vendors that go to Ada, that are also in the Caledonia market, and those markets tend to draw in a higher crowd. So what are they doing differently that we could, in turn mimic to draw in a higher engagement? And then third is the community feedback, obviously, like how is our community feeling about our events? And then additionally, like the marketing impact, like how is, the way that we're currently marketing, how is that impacting the community? And when we make changes to those marketing, how does that change in terms of like engagement? So where that would kind of fit in would be a lot of like social media. A lot of social media, platforms these days have a lot of useful tools that allow you to kind of track like how many people are viewing your posts, how many people are how many people are connecting with your post. And in turn that, transforms into what is called like engagement. And so you want engagement. So for example, like versus a like and a comment, when you get a comment on a post, that engagement is worth more than any like or haha reaction that you would get on a post. So, it's all about trying to get that variance and seeing what we can do to kind of boost the engagement on like social media, for example, because so when somebody like comments on the post, like versus like you could have like maybe 1,000 likes on your post, but if you have 1,000 comments on your post, that those comments and that engagement will actually boost and push your advertisement, will increase the reach and the amount of people that you're reaching through that engagement. And then additionally too, some kind of like next steps that I'm working on is obviously Heritage Day. Heritage Day is going to be September 13th this year. So make sure to mark your calendars so we can show our community pride. And then additionally too, there's some early brainstorming of Fall Fest going on. And then I'm still continuing to do sponsorship outreaches. I'm reaching out to our businesses. I frequently visit all of our businesses and make sure that every single business is getting an equal amount of attention from me, so that if there's something going on or they need help, that I'm right there to help walk them through that or to figure out what their next steps are going to be, or if there's any resources that we can pull in for them, whether that be through like the Berry County Chamber or many of our other resources, and friendships that we have with, all these different groups and entities that, we have relationships with. Is there any questions? Yes.
How many empty storefronts do we have?
So far, with Gabby's abruptly leaving, we now currently have I want to say as of right now, we have about 5 if you total the DDA district as a whole. So, it's very clear to me that there are obviously some significant changes that needed to be made to the business landscape here. And so by working with our businesses, I'm trying to figure out what those issues are, is their patterns in the issues that our businesses are struggling with, and how can we, avoid those patterns? How do we prevent those patterns from like consistently repeating ourselves to where it's like a revolving door where we have businesses coming in and out.
Thank you.
Of course.
I just have a few questions.
Yeah.
There's a lot about data, and
Sorry.
that is, you don't have to apologize to me. That's my love language. So I think we really need to get that right?
Yeah.
So number one, I love the 4-pronged approach with regard to attendance, vendor experience, community feedback, and marketing impact. But the part I'm going to drill in a little bit more on is the marketing impact, because it's difficult for me to conceptualize what we do to market externally, from the village out to the public and generally to businesses, and then get their engagement, right? So some things that would be really interesting to me would be trends. So, and this is really just, I think, part and parcel to the importance of your role. We made a lot of changes to the DDA. We had a pre reorganization and a post reorganization, and in many ways, this is the perfect time to look historically and say, what were we doing in the past? What data do we have to suggest that we understood what we were doing in the past? And what was the feedback loop that we got then? And then fast forward to today, where we may be doing some of the very, very similar things in terms of community outreach, surveys, data collection that we did, that we're doing now. I'd be very interested in when you talk about social media, because that's probably our biggest and most impactful way to market to the public. You mentioned before that we have a Facebook page.
Yes.
What other mediums have we decided upon, or are we looking at other? Avenues to that, and all of them are equally robust with regard to data. What marketing platforms or social media platforms are we engaging in outside of Facebook?
So currently, right now, we engage on obviously Facebook primarily. I've been looking into marketing more on Instagram. And then additionally, I'm also exploring ways that I can take our little village and make it present on like TikTok and things of that nature. Like how can I, do some of like the trends that you see on, like social media, and usually those trends usually begin from TikTok, a lot of like your reels and things that you see on, sorry to get a little technical, but a lot of the reels that you actually see on like Instagram and Facebook and even like YouTube, those
Or
are,
TikTok.
are all originated from TikTok. That's where they all come from. And that's where a lot of cities and businesses and entities and organizations are actually starting to flourish and bloom, is through TikTok and engaging with the current age range there. That seems to be the ticket. So the question is, how do we do that? And I'm hoping, working with figuring out what those legal guidelines of how I can do that and what kind of trends we can participate in, what kinds we can't, to kind of further give me a little bit of guidelines to make content. So that way I'm not stepping on anybody's toes or stepping on the law.
Yeah, I mean,
It
I think,
also needs to go through the, really the marketing committee through the DDA and stuff like that is a good starting.
right. I would
starting place with
suggest,
that.
I would suggest as just kind of as a go forward, obviously is this very solid,
Mhm.
like communication strategy. How do you want to talk to the public? Because I don't, and I agree it needs to get approval from the board and that is certainly important.
Mhm.
But I think a starting point would be, what does that strategy look like? What's our message? Who do we want to speak to? How do we want to speak to them? And really formulate a communication strategy, because each of those platforms that you've mentioned
Mhm.
are very different in many ways. They're
Yes.
similar, and
Yep.
you are 100% spot on. A lot of that TikTok is a baseline
Yes.
anymore. But I think as far as when we start talking about data collection and strategies, I would, and this is something obviously for a DDA meeting as well, but I also think from a board perspective, when we are branching off into these other medias, I think all of us really need to be cognizant of what message we want to to send out to the public, right? And I
Yes.
think that's a collective conversation.
Yeah,
And
it's kind of
something-
what I'm asking a question. There's something behind that question.
Yeah.
You approached it
Yep. So
definitely.
I just want to make sure that is there a strategy? How deep are we into that strategy? What are the platforms? And I loved your data collection, but I think translating
Mhm.
that into usable, actionable data is really going to require a very deep thought in a
Yes.
strategy, and something that you might want to work with the board, the DDA board with, and certainly
Agreed.
with Doug, I'm sure. But how else what other areas are you looking at with regard to communication to the public outside of social?
So in all honesty, some of like the ideas that I have had, which I have not brought before the board quite yet, kind of like dialing back to like the social media. So as some of you know, like I have the Middleville DDA page and I manage that page, but then I also manage the community development coordinator page. And something that I've noticed, because I utilize the two very differently, where the Middleville DDA is very structured, it's very rigid, it's very, factual, what you would expect out of like, a DDA or even like the Village of Middleville page, versus like on the community development coordinator page, like my page, I'm a little bit more personable with people. I'm a little bit more open. I'm a little bit more honest. I kind of like document like day-to-day things. I talk to people like, I'm just an everyday person, right? And so far, like the posts on my community development page could have more traction than the ones on the Middleville DDA page, which kind of stems, kind of rolls into the question that you're asking, about how do we present ourselves, you know, and I guess like a recommendation that I could have, you know, would be making it so that like the village of Middleville, you know, like we're not, you know, we're fun. You know, we want you to come. We want, you know, our events are fun. Like we like to have fun. Like maybe things aren't always, you know, it doesn't always have to be so like rigid or like straight and narrow all the time. Like I think that the more creative you are and the more personable you are with people, I think the more people connect with that, because a lot of people don't really take, you know, they don't really take things at face value. You know, they want to know, you know, they don't want to just like know you as like the official, you know, they want to know who like for example, who Kevin Smith that actually is, you know, does like to eat, you know, granola with his yogurt in the morning or something like that. You know, people just, they like that. For whatever reason, people just seem to really gravitate towards having that personable connection with other people versus that, you know, straight, rigid, you know, face that, you know, a lot of us, you know, have. So that would kind of be like a recommendation. Some of the ways that, you know, I think that we could potentially look at would be, like, for example, I got invited onto like a podcast with, you know, a local business, you know, just to kind of like talk about my position and just like, you know, give a way to like open up, you know, those avenues for people to kind of talk to me and to get to know me, you know, as a person, you know, instead of just, you know, a face, you know, and, you know, some fancy title. You know, so that could look like podcasts. That could look like us doing, I know you and I had spoken about doing like a mini docu-series about the history of Middleville. And, you know, I've been reaching out and have connected with some individuals who do have and know a lot of history about Middleville, or whose family members have been like a huge part of Middleville, that are interested in, you know, participating. So I think there's a lot of avenues that we could potentially look at. I think it all just kind of depends on what fits, you know, which shoe fits Middleville.
Sure.
Yep. And it really needs to start with, in my opinion, marketing committee at the DDA, and then DDA. And then if council wants to adopt some of those things, I mean, there's going to be resources that are going to have to, you know, be delivered towards those, or directed towards those actionable items also. And, you know, potentially, I mean, if you got Cassie doing all the, you know, are we hiring somebody specifically, again, just for marketing, you know, just for social media and things like that? I mean, we don't want to take away Cassie from, you know, what she's doing on her day-to-day job either.
Sure.
So we want to make sure that she's able to focus on what her roles and responsibilities are, and get some direction from the marketing committee and from the DDA primarily. So
I appreciate all your information.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely.
It's always very interesting to me.
Of course. Is there any other questions? Perfect.
All right.
My turn.
Your turn. Mr. Pergler.
Good afternoon. Grass is growing, and that's, you know, about 98% of my time that I've been spending this month. Shrubs, RV parking, odds and ends. Fences, so there's a fence that's an issue, but we're working on it. Many signs are out there. There's a company that comes through at night, I'm guessing, and they take pole barn nails, which has got the big washers on them, and nail them 4 on a utility poles, particularly right around the corner of the Shell station, and you know, and they're impossible. I had to have the guys come in with a tall ladder to get one of them off because I couldn't reach it. Fun thing. And there's signs out there. So anyway, we're working on grass mostly.
Well, it's going to stop growing as of about 3 days
Well,
ago.
we're, you know, we'll go through this drought here in a little while, and that'll stop.
Awesome.
Questions?
Thank you. Appreciate you. Liaison reports. Any?
doing everything.
The household hazardous waste event that was highly successful. They were talking about having another separate and standalone tire event again this year, because they're gonna have to do another household waste in September, but since it was such a huge backup, and it was a huge event.
Yeah.
They're talking about doing the tires separate. I thought that was a good idea.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think the same
In
with,
addition, I should say. as
I think
well.
the same with electronics. I think
Yeah.
we should have that more than once a year. I think people just keep that stuff in their garage. Those TVs burn out fast. That's excellent. Any other reports? Good. I think we had a great joint meeting. It was excellent. All right. Moving on to new business.
All right, playground equipment. Got a lot of information here. We reached out to 3 different vendors to get some ideas of what to do with Calvin Hill Park. You have 3 proposals in front of you, one from BYO, which is, I don't know, it's buy your own or bring your own, or anyway. That's not one I'm recommending, so, or Ventura, and then We Build Fund. So need some direction from council on how you want to move forward. My recommendation would be to work with Ventura. That's the most high quality playground equipment you're going to find. They actually, the garbage containers along Main Street are Ventura product, which was, I think those were installed like 20, 25 years ago. And if you look at them closely, there's not a scratch or a dent or anything on them. So, so I would recommend maybe moving forward with them, at least to come back and give us some different options to move forward with that. So
That would be like would they give us like a design?
Yep.
All of that would be
Yep.
included?
Yep, there is a design in here if you want to, you could obviously go with what they've got in here, but I think it'd be worth a conversation with the representative and you all to, have some different options. And then kind of go from that. And then Public Works would be able to tear out the old equipment, have a nice donation to the household hazardous waste event probably at that point. But so, what you see is what you get as far as the price is concerned. One of them with the Ventura, you're looking roughly $150,000 installed. So
It doesn't feel too bad.
no, I think it actually is really reasonable compared to what we were expecting.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is all like like they're getting rid of all the metal and
Yes.
the merry-go-round.
Yeah.
and all
Craig?
that.
Just
Giant rocket hot slide.
backing up, Calvin Hill Park is basically for little children.
Yes. Well,
So
yes.
we're keeping that same philosophy in improving the park
Yes.
for little kids.
Yep.
And that age level is like, I noticed, I'm like, geez, all the way down to 3 years old, I think.
Three to
12 or something
to
like-
teenagers. We've got
Yeah.
the skate park, infrastructure
Right.
and stuff there. Planning on keeping all that there, and you got some families, for example, Alec, who's got kids that are like 5 and 6 years old, and he's got teenagers also, and he wants to bring his whole family to the park, and so they can all have different options to to play at the same time. So. But definitely keeping the options for the little kids in mind. Absolutely.
Well, I've noticed a splash park's been on the news a lot. I wonder why, 110 degrees out there. But is there room for something like that there? And is
Yeah,
that
it's
something
still,
we want to entertain.
Yep, would be in the middle of Calvin Hill if you wanted to pursue that also still. This wouldn't be taken away from any of that area at all. We're primarily focusing, this design on
Perimeter?
the corner, the southwest. Southwest corner of the park, that kind of triangle area along
Yep.
the parking lot there.
Right.
Yep. Really where the merry-go-round, the existing swings that need to be taken out, and those slides
Right.
that need to be taken out right there. So
And when I was looking at it, I was wondering, do you know why they went with wood fibers instead of rubber?
A lot less expensive for the wood fibers than the rubber. Yeah.
But does it last as long? I mean,
Right, and the rubber is an option, and that'd be certainly a good discussion point for the representative, who could, absolutely speak better to that than I can. But yes, but I think the rubber is something like 3-4 times the amount of the.
It also stinks to have it. Lake Odessa had the rubber. In the middle of the summer, it is atrocious. Fumes coming off of the old up, ground up tires or whatever they are.
It's
Get-
basically
It
exactly.
waters
what it
your
is.
eyeballs,
They
you
get
know.
hot, too.
Yeah.
We have a lot of tires though that we can
I mean,
use.
I understand we got a lot of tires, yeah. We had to buy a grinding machine. But, anyway.
We visit the playground a
Mhm.
lot. In the last 5 years, I think at least 3 times we've
Mhm.
brought it to this point, then it just kind of goes away. The complaint, the complaints about the skate park are still, there are still a concern, or have those kids grown up or what?
Well, they're to a certain extent, but we're also installing, video cameras there, and we'll have, better visibility on the skate park, better visibility on whatever you decide to do
Yeah.
with this corner of things too. So, I think a lot of that can be mitigated, and we'll have signs up that say, you're on candid camera and things like that, so they can
Sure. No one
hopefully
knows what
not-
show that is.
not be as naughty, maybe. But.
I think we're moving in the right direction for sure. I'd love to see something happen there. But the concern was always, do you have, teenage kids while there's young kids there, and there's certainly a dialect difference.
Yep, and then, Doctors Mulligan, they'd like to see something happen there in honor of the dentist, Dr. Mulligan,
Okay.
So, and we've had $100,000 in the budget for parks for as long as I've been here, and probably as long as Mr. Smith's been here, and it's not been used yet, so.
More to come on that splash pad. I think that's certainly worth a conversation as well.
I think,
It's
sorry, go ahead.
No. That is always, that was a big ticket item for sure. There were some concerns about water management and so on, but, and then location. Should it be in that park? Should it be
Right.
closer to downtown?
Should we have
There's a-
pickleball there instead? I don't know.
Hey. Yes, and yes. The fact we don't have a pickleball court should be a concern for all of us in this board. All right. Well, I think I would love to see. Are these are not the final? Is this the final plans and the mock-up and everything?
This is what they presented, but we can have different options presented if you wanted to select one of the vendors, and I would recommend Pinchura as the one to go with, to come back with some different options for you.
What would you like from us tonight?
Just kind of direction. You don't necessarily need a motion, but just direction to do that. You can, you don't need to, but I can bring it back at a future
Maybe bring them
meeting.
in?
Yeah, that's what I was planning on.
Okay.
Yep.
Why don't we schedule that in there?
Okay.
Feel free to put them on the agenda.
All right, we'll do.
That's a set of improvements that I would really like to see.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
Personally, I would like this to move forward. So
Yep, for sure. Consensus with Pinchura then?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you.
New business. Yeah, it is. Okay, DDA appointments. So we had 3 candidates that Mr. Powers had put together, and obviously we are very close to having a full board at this stage. So I think it is certainly welcome to have all the seats covered. One seat is irreplaceable, but we certainly have the opportunity to continue to build the board with a heart for this community, and big shoes to fill there. So what I would like to do, as soon as I get to that section, because I can't read what's on that screen.
Yeah. Thank you.
There you go.
Yep. Thank you.
I'd like to be able to move forward and man, there is a lot. Stand by.
You on my computer?
So many pages. Oh, I passed it. So I'd like to, and we would do three motions. We have Mr. DeGroot, Ms. McDonald, and Mr. Densham. So we have three. Mr. DeGroot would fill an unexpired term, which would expire February 13th of 2026. Ms. McDonald would fill an unexpired term expiring February 2027. And Mr. Densham would be filling an unexpired term, which would expire February 13th, 2028. So I guess we would just go through and make a motion for each individual person. I'll start with Mr. DeGroot.
Support.
We have a motion with support to approve the appointment of.
Seconded, Kevin.
I made the motion.
Yep.
To approve the appointment of Mr. Trevor DeGroot to the Downtown Development Authority to fill an unexpired term expiring February 13th, 2026. Any discussion?
Can you explain when it says unexpired term, but then it expires? What does that mean?
It means somebody started it and then they left.
So the term itself is.
Yeah.
Was unexpired.
Yep.
Is he a proprietor downtown or, okay.
Yes.
He's in a plaza at,
Up on Thursday.
Center. Yeah.
Okay.
He's in something.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Would we need a roll call for this?
No.
All right. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right.
If you don't mind.
Congratulations.
Can I make the next motion?
Yes, you may.
I would like to make a motion to approve the appointment of Stephanie McDonald to the Downtown Development Authority, fill unexpired term, expiring February 13th, 2027.
Support.
We have a motion with support for Stephanie McDonald to the Downtown Development Authority to fill an unexpired term expiring February 13th, 2027. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Excellent. And I suppose I could make a motion to approve the appointment of Tim Densham to the Downtown Development Authority to fill an unexpired term expiring February 13th, 2028.
Support.
We have a motion with support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right. Congratulations, Mr. Densham. We have a full DDA board.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. That is, that's been a mountain.
Yeah.
All right. And moving on to sign ordinance discussion. So Mr. Bishop brought this up during our joint meeting, and I think it makes a lot of sense. We have concern about the ordinance as it is written currently, that it does not allow banners and leaf flags.
Feather flags.
Feather flags, that's what they are. Feather flags in our village. makes a lot of sense when the church uses them. We used it for the farmer's market. And there's other businesses that also use them. I think there's one thing as we have this discussion, and I just want to throw this on the table after giving it some thought. I certainly am not opposed to businesses promoting their business using banners and whatnot. Given the utility that even we have found in putting banners up for the farmer's market and whatnot. I also think that they need to be purpose-driven. I think it's not unreasonable to have limitations as far as how long, if they are event-driven, if there's a sale, or if there's some special event that may require them. I would propose that if we did in fact strike the ban on those particular types of signs, that at least we have them caged into a specific time frame. I don't want to make it super complicated for businesses to do it, because I think happens for us even, like when the pancake dinner happened, I think as long as they, once the pancake dinner is done, then they take them down. I don't necessarily believe that it's striking the ordinance shouldn't mean that we just be a free for all, but I think also, because I think to some degree they're useful. I also don't necessarily think that they're very pretty. And I think that aesthetically they need to have, they have utility, and let's leave it at that. So opening the floor for more discussion.
I'd like to say that I brought it up simply because I don't care about feather flags. I don't mind how they look. But what I don't want to be is annoying. I don't want to have to go to the church and be like, hey, you're not allowed to do that. Or have to call Bob and be like, Bob, can you go down to the church and tell the church, pull these flags down? But like the car dealership has used them. Soccer has used them. Yeah. We had the mushroom guy had his up at the farmer's market. I don't mind any of these applications. I mind not caring and having to be the bad guy. So I just asked for it to be at least revisited so that everyone can have the discussion, because I see a usefulness, and I don't see a governmental reason why we should step in the way of businesses to say you can't do that. So to me, it's a let people live. It's not that bad kind of a situation. But if that is not what the public feels, that's fine too.
If I may.
Yeah. I'd like to hear from you.
Well, look, specifically the Methodist Church, they have their monthly breakfast. And 5 years ago, I've talked to them, and they set them out on a Friday or Thursday afternoon, and they're gone on Saturday morning. Once a month, if there's an ordinance, I ignore it, because they're prompt in taking them down. I think it's a real good community service. If we take a flag, or a banner the size of a flag, there's the car wash. They've got a couple welcome flags out there. There's a kind of a difference there as far as, I'm not sure where the border is, where the line is. There's been I called Bradford White one time when they had help wanted sign and a banner, and they promptly took it down. I don't think a banner should be floating around for 6 months, because it'd get old and dirty. I think there should be a certain timeline from the time that I notice it being up to 30 days or 2 days or 15 days. But, there's just, we have to make a parameter as far as a flag, a rectangle flag, or one of these that are 12 feet tall and that wide. Time-wise, it's just whatever it needs to be, or whatever was deemed to be. Enforcement is kind of an issue. It's always a hard one to find that medium.
Not only is enforcement an issue, but like our businesses are putting them up in violation of our local law. So obviously there is a want there that they want filled.
Yeah.
And I know that I was surprised to find out that feather flags were banned under the sign ordinance. But because by the very definition of its name, it is not a sign. But I can understand how things could get confusing with flags and banners and feather flags. But also, yeah, we can set up various rules for all of that. But
I agree with everything that's being said. One concern I have is, the only concern is like the high-density traffic area around the gas station and through the light. You know, some of these big, tall feather flags are quite distractive. And we have to have something to prevent that from becoming a zoo down there on the corner, because that's the place that you go down here, go that way, go that way, go that way. It's the
well, but
central.
on
this
corners,
way.
there's also like rules about sight lines and things
Right,
too.
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
you know, you can't
Right.
obstruct the view of an intersection.
yeah, that's my only concern. Thank you.
Do we know why the ordinance, why it was put in place?
Because they're ugly.
They're
That's the
they're
only reason.
aesthetically horrific.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, in an effort to not have signs like that all over town en masse, I think that it was meant to control something that's just not aesthetically pleasing. So
Or the balloon man, you know, that goes.
Yeah.
That'd be my first question is, so yes, great. Are you gonna just say feathers are allowed only events? I mean, you can't go from no to free for all, or then we're gonna get,
Right.
Yeah.
what you're talking about, talking about it, every business down the street has, I don't know, that's, so.
I think if we're thoughtful about the language,
I think also this would be a perfectly acceptable thing to ask the DDA what they would like too, because they're going to be the ones that are going to be liaising with the local businesses as well. They could get a through their interactions, a series of, here's what we'd like, or, if you didn't want a 12-foot and wanted to restrict them to 10-foot feather flags or something, that's something that the business owners could speak up to. And we could take that kind of a recommendation later on to look into it. But I think involving the DDA would be
I think it's essential. Since I
portion
think
of
that's
this.
part of their charter, is to help with that sort of thing. So for sure, I agree. Well, I guess no action necessarily today other than the conversation, but I think we should consider moving this to the DDA and maybe working it out with Mr. Powers to determine how that ordinance should be framed. I think timeline, making sure it's not a visible obstruction in intersections or whatever, or dangerous areas, size, maybe there's a size limitation.
DDA and / ordinance committee can work through it.
Yep. So yeah, I think it certainly is I think it's worth our time and effort. As I say, in other ordinances, it's not our job to make our residents criminals. It's our job to serve them and make them understand their appetite and determine what we can do to, and certainly our business owners, to make sure that they're not breaking the law, but building their business at the same time. So I agree with that.
Are you asking the DDA to look at the sign ordinance period, right? Not just feather flag? I would think at this time, maybe it would be to look at the whole ordinance,
There's an ordinance
We got an
committee
ordinance committee with the planning.
within the
commission.
planning commission, and then, maybe have some recommendations from DDA, but Mr. Powers can navigate
All
that.
necessary parties are in earshot of this, so I think
Mhm.
we're in good shape.
Okay.
I think moving forward with that, so. Any other discussion? Any discussion from our planning and,
We can certainly dialogue about this. If you want to meet, we can get some direction.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, that's it. Then thank you for entertaining the conversation for sure. And with that, in your packet, you have boards and commissions, informational items. There was a DDA revenue and expenditures report as of 5/28/25, which is of much interest. Hastings Riverwalk Lofts Project celebration, which I think,
That's the same developer that's proposing the State Street property.
right. That's right, yep, Copper Rock, yep. Public comment, 3 minutes. You good? Got fired up there for a second. I was like looking forward to it. Mr. Baldry.
Steve Baldry, 312 Russell Street. Been a resident, Middleville, 26 years. I have a nephew who's on the supervisory board at Berry County Road Commission. So I called and asked him if he was part of the piracy of getting Alec Belson there. At that point, he told me, bad connection, I gotta go. I'll be seeing him shortly. My point to that is I charge the council that from an automation machinery background, the worst thing you can do is train your competitor. So what you do is you train your workforce, your competitor takes them, and he gets the benefit of all the training that you put in. That's the first rule of business. You can't break that rule. And I would ask each and every one of you to look at all of your employees and make sure something like that, to the best of your ability, doesn't happen again. It shouldn't come as a surprise. It should come with a little, yeah, we see it coming, we better do something. So I'll get off on that one. The other thing is on Arlington and Main, that new, I think it's a bookstore that's taken over then. Is there something that could be done about giving that poor individual a sign that says, this is what we do? I don't know if the DDA can help them on that or not. But you go, like in the fall, you go up, there's soccer tournament. There'll be 100 cars up there. They're all going to drive through that intersection. The last two businesses that have been there, I defy you to figure out what they do as you're going by. So maybe something could be done to help these folks, to give them a shot at staying in business. You know, so, okay, that was it. That was, thank you.
I have a quick comment on that, is that I talked to Doug the other day when I was out for my walk. When I saw the name, what's the name of the business?
Inkwell Archives.
I'm sorry? My first reaction, if I went to Doug, is I took it as a tattoo parlor,
Oh.
okay? And just by the ink, you know, okay. And Doug, perked his ears up. What do you mean a tattoo parlors in town? So I agree that, kind of way to help them out and in that way too. Because I would have never guessed it was a bookstore. But I guess maybe that's my fault for not stopping in either too. Stopping and checking it out, so.
Doesn't Main Street have a program for science?
Facade program. Cultural science.
Still doing it.
So as you know, we're going through our 5-year rec plan update. I know that Mackenzie would have shared this with you, but we are opening our public survey. So we'll be sharing it on our Facebook page. Certainly we want anyone and everyone to share that information out so we can hear from the most people in our community. So as a reminder, TAPRC's jurisdiction is basically the school district. So share it out to try to get as many responses as we possibly can. We did place the yard signs, as I talked to your village manager about the locations of those. So I've put them out on the trailheads here, north and south of Main Street, at Crane, also at our parks. I do have a few in my car, so if you have suggestions, I can go put them out. Basically, very similar to the yard signs that you put out for the trail project. So we are going to do a penny input, public input, similar to what you've done in the past for your master plan and DDA and all those things, working with Williams and Works. So just stay tuned. And then I think we have a date for the joint meeting. So I was just checking my doodle poll. So I have a date, September 22nd. Don't put it down yet because I'm going to email it out. I'm trying to find the right location. So as soon as we know a location, I will send a posting out and we'll get that all out.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other public comment? Rhonda, what do you have for us?
There were a couple of requests at our joint meeting with the DDA for people that want to serve on some committees. One of them was the downtown snow removal committee, if you're interested in that one. And then what was the other? Oh, streetscape. Yep. And then the future of the train depot. So if you're interested in serving on any of those, let us know. We'll need some folks from council on those. And then also, please check your email for participating in the fair. We're getting to the point where we're going to have to start assigning staff to go out there, and we'd rather not have to do that if we don't have to. So let us know. Thank you. That's all I got.
Put me down for the depot.
Okay.
Tracy, final council comments.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Mr. Bishop.
I recently got a job at Tractor Supply, so, but it is a part-time job, so my hours are not set, so I am unable to volunteer for the fair. I apologize.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
I'm gonna try not to cry. I just want to thank this council for allowing my dad back on the DDA and giving him his time that I fought for so hard. I'm gonna miss him, and just thank you. That's all. Thank you. Go ahead. Stop looking at me.
Sorry. Mr. Hamilton.
I've already expressed my condolences. Thank you.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about that joint meeting we had last Tuesday. Maybe a personal comment with you, maybe Kevin, is that being new, was I feeling like the village was driving it more than the township, or not? Right?
It wasn't your imagination.
Okay.
What was your?
Well, that's what I meant. It just
No,
felt
what
like.
did you say? I didn't hear you.
Well, is that it felt like the village, Kevin and the village was driving the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Wanting to be there more than the township. But I don't know if it's, I think you even made a comment, maybe we could have done a better job of what they were expecting, or what to expect. Because you're right, you kind of hit them with some things like we talked about. And then, you asked them, what were some of their plans? And
I don't think we
it was
ever
kind
got
of
any
like a blank
feedback.
stare, and that's why I made the comment, being new is like, it did seem like, I think they can't only do fire and EMS. I know that's their biggest budget thing, but I mean, if they're coming to the table with just fire and EMS, then I could see them looking at the trail and, that kind of stuff. Well,
But
not like that.
I
So
think that's a preparation issue that has nothing to do with us. It has a lot to do with their supervisors. That's all I can say. I'm not kicking him, but maybe he didn't know what was going on either, but I had the same feeling, but I still think we accomplished something.
I think we're all a little bit out of practice in terms of meeting with each other, us meeting with the township. So it was kind of like a first date a little bit, from that aspect. And the next time it'll be September 16th. We're going to try to meet quarterly, as long as both parties are amenable and we don't get in fist fights while we meet. Then, we'll try to keep meeting, and then maybe they'll open up a little bit more when we're on their turf. Next time we'll be at the fire barn September 16th. So maybe they'll open up.
Why we're there.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So I think it's a good practice to keep meeting with each other, and hopefully we can keep, working closer together and, working some things out. But I think, honestly, John, I just think probably just takes time, and, they're probably sitting on their cards a little bit like, well, we'll just kind of hold out and see what you guys have to say first and see where it goes from there. So that was my take on it.
Also, if it comes to a fist fight, I'm a coward and will run away. You can count on that.
Anything else? I think there's a couple of things about that meeting. Number one, I think certainly from a dialogue perspective, I wish we would have allowed them to talk more. We didn't. There was a lot of talking, and it was a lot of us, and not any of them. And we had to literally extract it out of them. That's our fault.
I disagree with that. They had it.
That's
planned
fine.
out too.
That's okay. It's my turn now.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think, we have a lot to say to them. And I think a lot of it means that we're trying very hard to reach out to them and create a dialogue and create an atmosphere where we can collaborate. But again, I think one of my favorite moments of the entire evening was when Miss Getty basically asked people individually, hey, respond. And I think we got some good information from that. I think we should do that more, is just give them the opportunity to have dialogue with us, because I don't know if it's necessarily a safe place for them. Honestly, I think that there's a lot of history between the two of us. I don't necessarily subscribe to it. I'm about clean slate, starting over and making things better. I really cannot overstate how important that is. From my seat and from as a resident of Middleville, we really have to understand that the township and the village are a puzzle. They're a puzzle piece. It's not that one person's doing a better job than the other. It's just we have different responsibilities, but we can't do the sum individually. The village doesn't have an EMS, and we don't have an assessor, and we don't have elections that get run by, there's a lot of things that they do. I don't think that they were fair with themselves when they only mentioned, two things. They do a lot. It's our job to understand where they fit and what our two puzzle pieces, when they come together, makes a bigger picture. And I think that is important for us to understand. And we really need to give them the opportunity to say what's on their mind. And I think the next time we get together, I think I would like, at least I might charge Mr. Stolzenberg to drive it and give the opportunity and make it a little bit more interactive so that they can say what's on their mind. I think that's fair. I mean, they don't all have our personalities, right? So we're pretty good about speaking publicly and sharing our thoughts, but maybe they're not. So we just want to give them the opportunity to be themselves. And as I say it all the time, we need to meet them where they are, not the other way around. So that's bridge building. And that's where I think we can lead them to that place. And I think we'll be successful. That's my hope. And that's what I think the objective is. And I think there's we could learn a lot from them. I think that they have a lot of really important projects that they work on, a lot of important initiatives. And it's not our job to question whether they're doing their job. I think their question is, how are they helping make Middleville a better place to live, and what is their role in doing that? And I think the obvious is a beautiful fire barn, EMS service. If anybody needs to go to the hospital, they certainly are there to pick us up. So I say bravo to them, and I hope that we get a chance to figure out ways to serve them better in the long run. So I enjoyed that meeting. I think we could have, I wish we would have had more dialogue from them for sure, but we have another chance, so let's get it on the calendar. Outside of that, my condolences. Your dad was a remarkable man, and it was an honor to have him serve this community at the level that he did, and he certainly had a heart for it. Certainly an individual that if any of us could follow even partially in his footsteps, we'd be pretty great people. So, so my thoughts and prayers, and
I appreciate that.
and he'll truly be missed. And with that, I believe a motion is in order.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
We have a motion with support. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Meeting adjourned.
Hang on. Trading, oh, here's one of them, and then I forget.